Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Dario here with another Options and Play video update. We have a pretty busy week shaping up for us. For being this late in February and this late in the earnings season, actually like a really surprisingly busy few days. And actually Monday morning, normally not typically a lot, but this Monday be like increasingly so. Royal Caribbean. It's priced in 6.5, which is kind of a lot, like from a point perspective. But I mean, the group is starting to come to life, starting to turn the corner. I mean, the chart of RCL looks similar to the charts of like a bunch of other different names, like CCL and CLH. So, I mean, these names are coming to life. RCL is kind of like the first to go, and it could really set the tone for like the sector, which is starting to start to show a little bit more interest. So, I don't know if I'm going to play this, but I am kind of interested to see what they say because it could kind of start maybe like a longer recovery because some of these like the cruises, some of the airlines, still way off their levels from last year. So I am interested. I don't know if I'm going to play it, but definitely something to keep an eye on Monday morning. Um, After the close on Monday, Big C. So they were supposed to report this past week, and let's pull it up here. There we go. So they were supposed to report this past week. It got postponed because they're based out of Texas, and the whole power outage issue. So the problem with that is that the options this week were priced lower because they expired February 19th. They only offer a monthly options, and they're pricing in 16 points for March. So um, paying monthly options a lot higher. So I think it's going to be a no play for me. Um, Real. So 6.5 points is what they're expecting here. Those are monthly options as well. Kind of an under the radar e-commerce name. Just had a solid swing trade in it when it broke back above the 20-day here. That's what we were looking at. It doesn't have a consistent history of moving, and it might actually be one of those setups that is better for like a swing trade, like right after the numbers come out. Um, and if like the option pricing comes down, not much of a move, maybe like mixed action, right? You can see like maybe like a quick setup for like another swing trade because it seems to go on like these really consistent runs, which obviously is like great for like swing trade setups. Zoom info. So about 9 points is what's priced in. Those are monthly options too. So when I scroll out, you can see what I'm looking at here. Had a great breakout above 50, which we were actually involved with. Nice breakout. Was hanging around. Just started to come down a little bit this past week. So going into earnings, what's interesting about this is like if it can deliver, and if it can get through 60, there could be like a real significant pent up move because that would trade through the IPO high. So more speculative, but kind of an interesting pattern. And if they can really deliver, 9 points doesn't seem too crazy, even though those are monthly, because I mean 9 points would basically be a retest of the all-time high, and then through that, I mean who knows, right? Before the open on Tuesday, big retail name, Home Depot, about 10.5 points is what's expected here. Tends to beat and raise and tends to drop on earnings. For whatever reason, that's its MO. I don't know why. Maybe this quarter is different. I actually think the setup's pretty tight. I mean, you can see like it hasn't really done a whole lot since August. Um, Setup to me looks more bullish. History says more bearish. Mixed signals, kind of a toss-up. So I don't know if I have enough conviction to go after it, but it does seem kind of interesting. It's just, you know, history says one thing, technicals seem to say another. So some kind of like real like mixed indicators on that one. Macy's, so about $1.75 is what's expected here. This seems more like a bearish pattern to me. It's had a huge run. It's now raised all of its losses from COVID, even though business has been hammered. Has a history of disappointing too. So I don't know what type of move lower you're going to get, and I don't know if it's going to be sustained because it seems like a lot of money's coming back into like the reopen names. But if I did look at a trade here, it'd probably be something to the bear side. After the close on Tuesday, Mcafee. So maybe not like a top name next week, but I thought it was kind of interesting. The price in 3 points. It's not a huge growth software name, but it has acted okay recently, and it seems like if it could deliver and it pops back to this 2150 high, it could get going because it was like an IPO. It's hanging above the IPO high or the previous IPO high, and if it can get some momentum, then I mean there's really no defined levels above 2150, 22. So maybe not for everybody, but it's something I might keep an eye on. Square, big name. They're looking for about 26 points here. Gotta imagine the numbers are going to be great. But to me, it all really just comes down to expectations and option pricing, right? Stock has had such a huge run, partially crypto, partially because of PayPal's quarter, and now earnings are pricing in, just a gigantic swing. Um, the bar, it just seems too high on this after the move it's had. And we've this is a name that I've liked to trade in the past. I mean, last year we were very active on it. So I think that's what's worked. Maybe I'll just stick with that. Sit out earnings, wait to see what it does, wait to see what they say, then see if there's like a quick swing set up and maybe revisit it for a trade. Upwork. So about 12.5 points is what's expected here. Those are monthly options though. Fiverr had a big beat and raise but didn't do much, so it's kind of hard to figure out whether Upwork will react differently. It has had a huge run since last quarter too. This was last quarter. So I think expectations are a lot higher now. And then you couple that with Fiverr's reaction, it seems like it's maybe an avoid for me. Okay, before they open on Wednesday, Lowe's. So Home Depot on Tuesday, Lowe's on Wednesday. Lowe's is pricing in 9.5 points. Obviously, Home Depot's numbers are going to have a huge impact here, so may not be a whole lot to do with it after Tuesday. It'll have to be like a wait and see where it's trading on the day of its own results. Overstock. This one's kind of interesting. About 16 points is what it expected. E-commerce play, obviously, but also a crypto play. They've actually crushed it the past 2 quarters, and it's heading into the holiday quarter. Option pricing definitely high, but it does seem like it could move quite a bit. I mean, it has been in wider ranges over the past month. Might be a decent volatility strategy candidate actually, but it would definitely require getting premium down on both sides. So maybe with like spreads. And also Wednesday before the open, TJX 375 is what's expected on this. I don't usually trade this one, but what's nice about TJX is that it usually sets up sympathy plays on peers, Ross Stores, ROST, or Burlington. So if I was going to do anything, it would be with either of those two because they don't report next week. After the close on Wednesday, Triple D. So about 775, what they're looking for. They raised guidance back in January, and that's what really started this huge explosion. Definitely turned into a momentum name. It has rolled off its high, and my rule is usually to avoid stocks that guide early. But the way this has been acting, maybe there's still a move here. I mean, it's definitely gotten a lot of eyeballs on it over the past month. So maybe if their guidance is strong and it starts to get a little pop back through like the high 40s, 50, maybe it kicks into gear again. So I feel like I'd lean bullish, but I guess it'll also come down to how things are moving next week, right? Like if they're paying earnings, then maybe I'll look at it. If they're not really paying earnings, then maybe I'll hold off. Nvidia, big tech report. 40 points, give or take, is what they're looking for here. Stock finally broke out of this super tight range, ran straight up to 600. It's hanging right above the previous all-time high. It hasn't been a huge move on earnings recently, but this also might be the quarter where it breaks that pattern because a measured move above the previous high, that's pretty significant. You're thinking like 650-ish, maybe even a little bit more. I don't know if it'll do that immediately though. So maybe like a longer term, like bull strategy would be the way to approach this. Pure Storage. So about 4.25. Those are monthly options. That's what's expected. Really has been an impressive name since December when it finally broke through 20, but even more so in February when it really took off. Sadly, we did not catch this move in February. We were in it back in December though. It didn't react great to earnings last quarter. Okay, so that's where I kind of start with this. But memory names have been strong. Momentum's been strong here. I do wish there were weeklies available because I don't really want to pay for all that extra time. But if I were to do something, probably lean bullish. Maybe look at something a little bit further out of the money just to see if it like pops and keeps going. Revolve. So definitely a big week for e-commerce. About 5.5 points is what's priced in. Uh, Typically, it's been a pretty consistent move around earnings. Definitely has had a big run over the past few months with a lot of the e-commerce names. Pricing, I guess, is kind of in line-ish with its historical moves, but short interest is down a lot, so you don't have necessarily like that fuel like you had in quarters in the past. I'm kind of on the fence with this one, but if I were to lean one way, it might be with the side of history, and maybe look at like a volatility strategy, just expecting like a bigger move on either side. Plus, it's the holiday quarter too, right? So that always adds a little bit extra volatility to the mix. For the open on Thursday, LI. So about 3 points is what they're pricing in here. What's interesting about this is that it's the first of the Chinese EVs to report. So I think it could set up a real nice sympathy play on XPEV or NEO. XPEV I think is more similar, more closely correlated. So that one might be more sensitive, but I think both NEO and XPEV could react to LI's numbers. Moderna. This should be interesting. 17 points is what's priced in here. Total wildcard report to me. Pfizer really didn't get much love on their earnings a few weeks ago, and Moderna stock is up a lot, a lot, a lot. So I think everybody is expecting a big boost numbers wise from the COVID vaccines, but the question is, how much is needed for this to keep going up? Option pricing isn't cheap, but it also seems like critical report stock is right at its high. Might be set up to be a pretty big mover. Might be way more speculative, but could be a decent volatility strategy candidate, especially if I can get the overall premiums down. Also, Thursday morning, Wayfair. So about 38 points, what they're looking for in this. This was up a ton in May on earnings, but the next couple of quarters were just kind of non-events. So this is more of a question mark because pricing's very high and it's been a little bit less consistent recently around earnings. Chart pattern's decent, but I've found this to be a real tough trading name lately, so I might sit this one out. After the close on Thursday, big night. Airbnb. So, whoops. Airbnb priced in about 23 points. This is the first report. It's a public company, so there's going to be a ton of people watching it. Stock has been very impressive since its debut, but also means expectations are very high. I don't have a great read on the setup or the options for that matter because there's no history. So it seems kind of like a toss-up. I think it's one of those, if you really have conviction on it, maybe worth a look. If you don't, maybe worth sitting out. Also, Dash. So about 27 points is what they're pricing on this. This is also its first report as a public company. Very high valuation on this, so they're probably going to have to crush it for the stock to work higher. Or at least that's what I'm thinking. It could be a mover, but I feel like the risk reward is more the downside. Kind of a tough setup in general. And I mean, I am personally very on the fence with it, and I'm not sure I want to take the risk if I only view it as a toss-up. Beyond Meat, another big priced in move. About 21 points is what they're expecting. Got a big, big pop on that Pepsi headline a few weeks ago. Settled back into a range. It hasn't reacted well. It hasn't reacted well to earnings the last couple quarters. So I think it's going to need a real big beat and raise to get moving. Um, it might actually be a better swing trading candidate. Like the more I look at it, the more I feel like I feel like the premiums are somewhat high. It doesn't have a great history um, lately. I feel like if it's good and it can reset above 180, maybe it sets up like a nice swing trade opportunity over like an extended period. So I think I'm just going to wait out earnings and see what they say, see what the stock does. Etsy, another big price to move. About 24.5 points, what's expected here. E-commerce name, it's been crushing it for the past year, going into the holiday quarter. It seems like a great setup for a ramp into the report. So it would not surprise me to see this run ahead of time. I guess whether or not there's a trade on earnings can depend on where it is the day of the report. Farfetch. So 15.5 points. That's what's priced in here. Another e-commerce name. Those are monthly options actually. Hangs in great. Crushed it last quarter. Barely pulled back. Caught a nice trade on this recently. and there might actually be some left in the tank because it's not too extended. Pricing's high because of the monthly contract, so I feel like the only way to be able to play this is by getting risk down substantially, actually. Rockets. $1.85 is what's priced in. I have a love-hate affair with this one. Just in a swing trade that got stopped out, so that's part of the hate. It's just, I always feel like there's so much potential, but the stock just refuses to get going. Not dying to jump back into it, although, I acknowledge earnings definitely could be eventful. Um, to me, it's like if it gets through 23, 23 and a half, 24, then it could really start to turn the corner and break out. But with the stock at 20, I mean, that's a long ways away. So I'm not sure I'm going to touch it on earnings, but if it does get through that level after earnings, it's definitely going to be on my radar. And then lastly, on Thursday after the close, Zscaler. So top cyber name, priced in about 23 points. Just in a long uptrend since the huge pop last quarter. Just off its high. This Palo Alto, Mcafee, they all report next week, so that might give a nice opportunity for a sympathy trade on CrowdStrike, actually. Because CrowdStrike and Zscaler have been kind of closely correlated over the past few months. Actually, the past maybe like 6-7 months. So could be a CRWD option sympathy play. Okay, and then wrapping things up Friday morning, DraftKings, so another big name. About 575 is what's expected here. It had a decent pop on the November report, but didn't close up much that day. It has been in a real strong uptrend since then, and actually what's interesting is that it's just kind of hanging out underneath the previous all-time high. It might be a little bit more speculative, but if it can crush it and trade through 65, it could be a pretty big pent-up breakout, so might look at something cheap on the bull side on that one. All right? So just a ton of names, a ton of big names, a ton of huge priced-in moves. We'll see how things go. We'll see if they open up risk and start paying options on these. But if they don't, then there's going to be a lot of good swing trade opportunities, I have a feeling, in the not too distant future. All right. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information on trading earnings with options or swing trading with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options in play. Hope you have a wonderful night. Stay well, and I will talk to you all on Monday.